This is TurnOneThoughtseize. I'm Aaron.
I'm Chris.
Today we are going to be doing a live deck, quote unquote, live deck build. It's live for us.
It is live for us.
It's Memorex for you. We're going to be doing a live deck build based on a random card, semi-random.
Right. We'll get to
We'll get there.
and we're also going to include a link. So if you want to do this as a deck building exercise,
Yep.
you can as well. I think it's kind of fun to do.
No, I think it'll be good. We wanted to just tippity touch on there was an SCG Modern Premier IQ in Atlanta recently. It was on the 11th. A lot of real standard stuff, but three interesting decks that kind of popped up. Green Red Aggro won the day.
Yeah, it did. Green Red is only slightly a misnomer, but for the most part, it very much is just Green Red Zoo.
Yeah, it's 2 Dryad Arbor, 4 Experiment 1, 4 Goblin Guide, 2 Grim Lavamancers, 4 Kurt Ape, 4 Wild Nicodle, 4 Burning Tree Emissary, 4 Strangler Geist, you're welcome, 4 Tarmogoyfs, and 2 Gorklan Rampagers with 4 Bolts, 4 Tarkus Commands, and 18 lands, including a Pendelhaven.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, right, like...
Makes your Dryad Arbor...
Dryad Arbor a 2/3.
Yeah.
Makes your Dryad Arbor another Kurt Ape.
It does.
So they did have a Temple Garden, obviously, to get the maximum value out of Wild Nicodle. Sideboard, real standard. Scavenging Ooze in the side.
Which I think is very important.
Yeah.
Up against the grindier decks where you don't have to win on turn 4 or earlier, bringing in Scavenging Ooze to eat away value and control opposing Tarmogoyfs and things like that is super relevant.
Yep. Also, Gorklan Rampager, Dryad Arbor. Sweet. 5/5 Dryad Arbor.
Yeah, and I do think there's a lot of interesting choices here. For instance, there's only one of each basic, and there is the one Pendelhaven, and they chose Temple Garden as the white source and not Sacred Foundry.
Okay.
Because it is worth mentioning, most of the deck is green based.
Right.
And if you have double green, you can cast all of your green spells. Like with Strangler Geist at double green and Burning Tree Emissary at double green, I think it's very important that the way that they built this mana base is definitely correct.
Yeah. Yep. No, this is a
very solid list.
This is a really great deck, and I mean, you could if you want to budget it, like it's already fairly like minus Tarmogoyfs. It's a very reasonable deck.
Let me look. Right, so you take out the Tarmogoyfs and you already save the $600 and bring it down to somewhere around $700, but there was also unnecessary green fetches in Verdant Catacombs and Misty Rainforest.
Right.
You could easily replace those with Khan's fetches,
Yeah.
like at least the 4 Windswept Heaths.
Yeah, it runs 3 Misties and 3 Verdant Catacombs, which could be any green fetch.
Right, yeah. And there is nothing like there is a reasonable argument behind putting in another red fetch instead, as well as just adding the another basic.
Yep.
Just because you want to be able to fetch your basics to play your Destructive Revelry to stop a Blood Moon. Yeah.
So, like I said, all around, very happy to see it doing well.
I also like the use of Molten Rain in the sideboard instead of Fulminator Mage. Fulminator Mage, while great land destruction, is mostly for the mid-range decks, and for especially like the blue-red Delver variants and aggro decks like this, or blue-white-red decks, you definitely want the Molten Rain.
Yeah. Restore Balance, the old Restore Balance combo, came in 6th.
Yeah.
Man, you want to talk about a budget deck? $175.
Yep.
The entire deck costs the same as 3 Misty Rainforests.
Yeah, right about. And like when you delve into that, most of this deck's cost was the 4 Leyline of Sanctity in the board.
Yep. Which
came at $42. And also 4 Simian Spirit Guides were close to $20. So that alone was like $60 of the deck.
Yep. And 2 Flooded Strands.
Yeah, that's also there. All of these cards are pretty necessary, though.
Right.
But you're not going to be upset to own 4 Leyline of Sanctities.
Nope. Super good. So this, as far as I remember, is pretty much the the sort of accepted version, if you will.
Right. So this is the pretty much all in border post version. So for those that don't know, Restore Balance is just like Balance from the original Days of Magic, just a totally fair Magic card in every way, because symmetrical effects are always fair in Magic.
False.
Each player chooses a number of lands he or she controls equal to the number of lands controlled by the player who controls the fewest. So
Is that the Oracle text?
I don't know. That's the text on the card. This was printed in Time Spiral, and if you read the actual text on Balance as well, it's worded like the exact same way. So this whole set was about nostalgia, and boy, is that just nostalgic to read that text. So essentially what the card does is you look at who controls the fewest number of lands, and anyone that has more lands than that has to sacrifice lands until they get down to the same number. You then do this again for creatures, and then you discard cards in the same way for your hand size. And so what you do is...
So sadly, the Oracle text is exactly as it appears on the card.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It's unhelpful.
I wouldn't want it any other way. So you run Border Posts, which is a common fixing cycle from Shards of Alara block. Yep. And they all cost 3, and they're artifacts, and they tap for 2 colors, and there was a cycle of all of them. Or you can pay 1 colorless and return a basic land to your hand and put it into play for free, and it comes into play tapped. So mostly what you're trying to do with this deck is play basic lands, tap them, return them to your hand, and put Border Posts into play. And you'll slowly do this until you just have a bunch. Now that's actually why the deck runs 4 Evolving Wilds, because you don't want fetch lands, because Evolving Wilds need to fetch you all of your basics.
Right.
And they do give you your choice of all the basics. So you run 4 Evolving Wilds and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 basics.
Yep.
1 of each and 2 of islands. And you're just playing Border Posts, and then you don't have any creatures really. Like all of your creatures are suspend creatures. Another great mechanic.
Yep.
This deck is a ton of mechanics that just don't see play.
There's a lot of it's a lot of bookkeeping. Like that's the thing. Like if you are bad at keeping track of like triggers and stuff that happens on upkeeps and so, like just play a different deck, because this you will not have success with this deck if you can't like keep track of everything, because there's a ton of stuff going on.
16 Border Posts. Oh, and then I also forgot that. So Restore Balance you can't actually cast. It's like Living End. You have to cascade into this. So like the Living End combo, you're playing a cascade spell. Everything costs 3 or more.
Yep.
And so you always cast Restore Balance. Unlike you do, the cascade cards are Ardent Plea, which is an enchantment. But the good thing is you don't need creatures for it to go off, and Violent Outburst, which also doesn't target a creature. So unlike Living End, you don't have to have a creature in play, and your opponent doesn't have to have a creature in play.
Right.
So you actually do cascade more consistently in this deck. The difference is it's not even close to a guaranteed win.
Right.
Also, it's worth mentioning, now the accepted thing is, because Restore Balance doesn't reference Planeswalkers,
right,
you play a lot more. This deck runs like 4 main deck Planeswalkers.
Yeah. So it's Garruk Relentless. I don't remember what he even does. He's the flip one.
Yes, he is.
So let's see. When Garruk Relentless has 2 or fewer loyalty counters on him, transform him. He has a 0. He deals 3 damage to target creature. That creature deals damage equal to its power to him. And a 0. Put a 2/2 green wolf token onto the battlefield. Garruk the Veil Cursed. +1. Put a 1/1 black wolf creature token on it with Death Touch on the battlefield. -1 sack creature. Search your library for a creature card. Put in your hand. And -3 creatures you control gain trample and +X, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. That is a lot of text.
Yeah, like this deck just has so much going on for it because so first of all, you're casting Restore Balance, and you might have no lands in play. Like you
Right.
might just completely get rid of all of your opponent's mana sources, and they might have a bunch of creatures, and now they're all gone because you don't have any creatures in play. And then you can use stuff like Garruk Relentless, just spit out tokens and help control their board. But it even has more going with it with two
Nihilith.
Two Nihiliths and four Greater Gargadons.
Greater Gargadons.
Well, that's how you win the game.
Yeah. So Greater Gargadon, the thing with that is you can basically you cascade, and then in response you sack all of your stuff, so you can control sort of the amount of balance happening, and it also removes counters from Greater Gargadon.
Yep.
A fancy schmancy 9/7.
Oh yeah,
good old vanilla 9/7.
Well, so you're paying 1 mana for it, and then you get it down to well, it has like 6 counters on it,
Yep.
And then you can go ahead and sack all the lands you have in play if you have like 4 border posts out.
Yep.
So you have 4 mana, your opponent's gonna have no mana,
Right.
And yeah, then you're just gonna go off. Like you get rid of a bunch of stuff. Now it might have 1 or 2 counters on it, and next turn it's coming in. Like,
Yep. Yeah. Nihilith is probably a little bit more consistent. It's 2 to suspend. It has suspend 7, but you don't have to do anything. It's
Right.
whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, if Nihilith is suspended, you may remove a time counter. So that's just gonna happen.
Right, and what you can do is you make sure that if your opponent if you have no lands in play and your opponent has 4 lands in play, that means it might just be coming into play.
Yep.
And because it says may, like you don't have to open it up to removal spells or stuff. Like you don't have to let your opponent float the mana. You just make sure it comes in next turn when you remove the last counter.
Yep. So that's that. Nihilith, I don't know if it's good enough to see play in regular decks, but it is a graveyard from anywhere. So they're going to be fetching, and
What also costs 2, which means you're not really putting it anywhere until like turn 3, because you really need to set up your border posts first,
right?
And then you can start thinking about Greater Gargadons and Nihiliths and stuff.
Yeah. So that's that. Still an interesting deck.
I find that people don't know how to play against
people
it.
have no idea how to play against
this is a deck where if this is your pet thing, you played this like a couple years ago and just haven't picked it up in a while, pick it up, because if you enjoy playing it, no one's going to know what you're doing,
right?
And you can be like this guy and just take down a tournament. Like you just completely spiked and top aided this thing. Like
like top aided with $175 deck.
Yeah.
40 no almost $60 of which is 2 flooded strands and a steam vents.
Yeah. And then like I said, the ley lines in the board.
Yep, ley lines and the Simian Spirit Guides.
Those are the expensive parts of this deck. It is cheaper than Living End.
Yep.
And so if you like that aspect, like Living End is probably still more consistent. Like, you have a little bit less going, like not in an insulting way. Like you just do have less going on because you don't have to worry about all of these suspend things,
right,
and counting lands and setting up your border posts. Like your mana base in Living End is just so much better and easier. Like,
yep, no, that's true. So that's that. The other notable thing is there's Collected Company Allies that came in 10th.
Yep.
Just shy of
top 8.
Top 8. There we go.
Yep.
So everything here was pretty standard. There was a 1 of Abzan Falconer, which I actually really like in this deck.
That's actually becoming pretty standard.
Yeah.
It's worth mentioning, like this is the more standard Naya build. Some people are running 5 color, 4 color, or Bant. The Naya is the only list that's done well in paper.
Right.
And the 1 of Abzan Falconer is actually just really good because in the Naya version, you're mostly playing the allies that give counters.
Yeah.
And so Abzan Falconer it's pseudo protection, right? Like you run the guy that gives protection and then Falconer just gives flying.
Right. It runs Hardened Scales. It runs Collected Company. Um, almost all of the cost of this deck is in the lands. Cavern Souls like $170 for a set.
Yep.
He runs 2 Horizon Canopies, which is 120, and then Razor Verge Thickets. I mean, it's $30 for a set, but it's still like,
Right, you still have to spend
$30 for a set. And then 2 Spell Skites is another $40.
Yeah.
I didn't see a ton of like really interesting stuff.
No, like I said, I think this is an example of the allies in Modern becoming more refined.
Yeah.
Like, Battle for Zendikar got spoiled to have allies, and people were like, oh man, remember when this was a thing? And started doing it in Modern, and lists just over time have gotten more and more tuned. And I feel like this is kind of it. This is right about where you want to be.
Yeah.
Except for the spell section where you really still have that fork in the road. Do you go Aether Vial or do you go Hardened Scales? An Aether Vial like lets you go wider and spend less mana, but you are also like a turn slower, where Hardened Scales just beefs up your guys right from the start. Like a lot of your guys, let's see, let's get an example. So most of your 2-drops will come down as 3/3s.
Yep.
And if you have a way to go like Hardened Scales and then 2 1-drops, like the Hada Free Blades,
right,
they're gonna come down. The first one's gonna be 2/3,
right.
and the second one's gonna be or rather, the second one will be a 2/3, and the first one will be 2/3 when it comes in, and then get another 2 counters
right.
and be a 4/5. Like that's also pretty explosive. So
so the additional spice in this one is they actually did include a Battle for Zendikar ally in the sideboard, which is a Firemantle Mage. It's 2 in a red for a human shaman ally with rally. Whenever Firemantle Mage or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control gain Menace, which is the replacement Intimidate. Creature with Menace can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. So that will certainly help push through damage against low creature count opponent decks.
yep, absolutely.
And then it also runs 2 Scouts Warning. Scouts Warning, we talked about this a little bit off air, is functions kind of like a pseudo Aether Vial.
Mm-hmm.
Scouts Warning is a single white for an instant. The next creature card you play this turn can be played as though it had flash, and you draw a card. So it's almost like Savage Summoning, similar.
Yep.
But it does draw you a card. It's from Future Sight, so you know it's good.
Right.
Yeah,
so I think, and I think this is a spicy include. It does solve the problem of not running Aether Vial.
Yeah.
I think this is a good mix between Hardened Scales and Scouts Warning, because with Aether Vial, if you draw Aether Vial late game, you're just upset.
Ugh.
Whereas this card cycles and does Aether's Vial's job a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like towards the end of the game, it's going to be really useful when Aether Vial wouldn't. So I like the explosive starts with Hardened Scales plus a couple Scouts Warnings. Like,
Yep.
It's not a 4 of. I do like this split of 4 and 2, especially if you don't run Aether Vial. And then the 3 collected companies is also probably the right number.
Yeah. So I think it will continue to be a good, like solid tier 2 tribal deck.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised that they didn't include at least 1 ally encampment. I know it's only 3 colors and they have Cavern, but
well, it's 3 colors, and on top of it, like, it's all white.
Yeah.
You have it's white, green, splashing red for Battle Singer. Like,
yep.
You almost don't need the red sword. Like between Razor Verge Thicket and Cavern of Souls, all of your allies are covered.
Right.
The only issue is having Hardened Scales and Collected Company and Path on time.
Yeah.
And Scout's Warning is just like you cast it when you can.
Right.
So I think the Razor Verge Thickets are just not cuttable from this deck.
No, I don't
the Horizon
think so
Canopies probably can be, whether you replace them with fetches or more Temple Gardens or Pain Lands, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever you can. that's certainly a way to make the deck more budget. And also, if you do want to just try this deck on a budget first, the allies are the cheapest part. Hardened Scales spiked a little bit, but besides that, like its Path, Collected Company, replace the caverns with ally encampments.
Yeah.
And just try that first. Like.
Yep. Yep. So,
also, I don't know if I agree with the 3 champion to perish and 1 mirror entity.
I'd rather have 4 champions.
Right. Like, champion is kind of where your explosive starts come from. Because, like, turn 1, Hardened Scales, turn 2, champion, Hot Free Blade.
Yeah.
Turn 3, play another one. Like, it just seems really good.
Yeah. Yep. Hardened Scales is the real deal. I think there's some stuff there. I've been working on some more Hardened Scales decks.
Yeah.
Because I really,
it's a
really
cool
like
card. It's almost like it's a card you could build around.
So this is episode 1 in a series that we're going to do about deck building. And the first one that we wanted to do was sort of a fun exercise that also hopefully will have some lessons.
Right.
Where we are going to start off by building around a specific card.
Yeah. This is kind of like the level 0 of like introductory deck building. Like a lot of people when they get into Magic, they see a creature and they just love it and they want to put it in a deck, and so they build a deck around it.
Query Drive.
Yeah. There's just so many creature cards that resonate with people.
Yep.
And that's basically where you start, and I think that's why it's a good place for us to start, as well as it just kind of being a cool exercise. So we're going to take a random modern rare or mythic rare.
Okay.
The reason we're doing that is because rares and mythic rares are a little bit more complicated, so they're going to be easier to build around. Like if we just got a vanilla creature, you can't build around that. That's boring. Like for instance, I have something set up in magiccards.info. I'm going to get a random number, and that's going to give us a card. If we get something like Tarmogoyf, we're pitching it back and getting a new number because that's just boring. We're not doing it.
Right.
What we're trying to do with this is you're building around, it's like top-down design. Like we're going to try and get 4 of this card in there, and we're going to see, okay, what's good about this card? What are its strengths? What can we build around it? Is there a shell that already exists to help put it in and stuff like that? So modern legal, creatures only. You can build
around any permanent, basically.
Yeah.
It works better than others. Some of them work better than others.
Mm-hmm.
So we picked creature because it's the most common.
Yep. And we also put in the stipulation of 5 or less converted mana cost because we're not casting 9 drops.
Yeah.
Like, if we got something that big, we're building Tron, and that's built. So
yep. Tron already exists.
Yep. There are 1,132 creatures that fit these criteria.
Okay.
So we're just going to randomize that. 137.
Okay. It's a good number.
Sure. Yeah.
Man.
So
is it Brooding Saurian? Because I hope it is.
All right.
Because I already
39,
I already have a Brooding Saurian
37. Deck. It is not Brooding Saurian. It is Champion of Lambholt.
Oh, okay.
So this is a rare from
Cold Snap.
No, it's not Cold Snap. It's Avacyn Restored. What are you talking about?
What am I thinking of?
I have no idea. To be fair, it almost looks like it's cold in the picture, so I'll give you that a little bit. It is a 1/1 human warrior for 1 green. Creatures with power less than Champion of Lambholt's power can't block creatures you control. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Champion of Lambholt. Well, I mean, we just talked about scales. This is actually wow. I was nervous we'd get something like
super lame.
Super lame. That's the worst. Like it's not even. It's just like something that's just like, oh yeah, like.
All right, Champion Lambholt. Man, it's actually a really cool card.
This is a cool card. I'm happy with this. Okay, so the first thing when you're doing a top-down design is you need to look at the card you're building around and figure out what the huge strengths are. So obviously it's the unblockable clause. Right. And really what we need to do is play a fair amount of creatures and make sure that Champion of Lambholt is really big.
Right.
So, and it already, the reason I'm saying a lot of creatures is because the more creatures we play, the more we'll trigger champions built-in ability,
Right.
which means we don't have to go too janky into it,
Mm-hmm.
but we can also make that even better by putting in things like hardened scales and things that naturally produce counters.
Right.
So I think we should really be looking at things that put counters on creatures and lots of cheap creatures, which luckily in green there are.
Okay, so let's start there. So I think her as a 4 of
Yeah, that was another
is
thing.
fine.
Yeah, we wanted to try and do a 4 of if we couldn't. Also, they are 89 cents a piece. So,
Seems good.
yeah.
So
Also, when I typed in champion of parish came up, and I don't know if that's good in this theoretical deck or not.
So it might be. Champion of the Parish has a couple of advantages. The first one is it already has like a proven power level where you can look at that card and say this card has been indexed that put up numbers.
Right.
Like and it is a very important part of those decks. It's not just a card that's in there by accident. My concern about Champion is I don't know how many
Champion of the Parish. This is really confusing.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
It's also worth mentioning Champion of the Parish was number 138, so we just missed it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's already a Champion of the Parish deck. There's a ton of Champion of the Parish
decks.
decks.
That's true.
So it puts us into more of a human.
That's true.
Human centric. Yeah. All right. So let's start with.
Well, right. So when we're looking at the top down, we need to figure out what's more important. Do we want to attack counters or creatures?
Let's see if there's anything that makes creatures and counters.
There are awaken spells, but I don't. Those might be too expensive for this deck. So this deck looks like more of a tempo aggro. It's also worth mentioning when you start looking at this, think about the cards you're looking to include and where in the color pie those fit, so you can start to see what colors of the deck you want to run. So for this an example, green-white really lends itself to lots of creatures, and it gives you to more counter stuff, and the white definitely gives the huge swarm of creatures to combo with champion, so to speak, by itself. Blue gives you more of the tempo game. You might get bounce effects and tempo plays so that you can just get your opponent out. Maybe it's worth going Bant. Red. I mean, red obviously gives you better spells. I don't know. Does red doesn't really deal with counters. Like blue has proliferate and evolve with the Simic stuff.
Right.
But
I
don't know if red and black, I don't know if they have that much to offer this deck.
Yeah. All right. So we're in green. We're pretty heavy in green, like double green.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think white is probably a good place to be as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Oh man, Dramoka's Command.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah, Dramoka's Command. So now...
Oh man, that stops Anger of the Gods.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be later, which is trying to figure out things that shore up this deck's weaknesses.
Well, not even that. Like, it gives counters, it's a removal spell, and then later on, yeah, the deck's weaknesses are going to be sweepers.
Yep.
And Anger of the Gods is so widely played. So Dramoka's Command is like good game 1 and also good game 2 and 3.
All right. So I think Hardened Scales is a slam dunk in this deck.
Yep.
The auto 4 of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at least interested in Bramblewood Paragon.
That's the warrior.
That's
one
it's the warrior one that I really like. But from a curve perspective, if you go turn 1 Hardened Scales, turn 2 Bramblewood Paragon, each other warrior creature you control comes into play with an additional +1/+1 counter, and each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample, and it's a 2/2. So you curve that into Champion of Lambholt.
Yeah, the only issue is the fact that if you play champion on turn 3, it's not getting a counter super quick.
Well, it'll be a 4/4.
Oh, it is a warrior.
Yeah.
That's right. Right. So if you do go, it'll be a
Or no, it'll
3/3.
be a 3/3.
I mean, which is okay. Like if you're starting that curve, you're just Bramblewind Paragon works in here with some warrior synergies, and it does also have the whole
Counters. Yep.
with the trample. Because of that, I think it's worth looking at some of the warrior synergy white cards
Yep.
from Khans of Tarkir. But because we're only splashing white, probably like this is still heavier green than white. Probably can't have any dual white pips.
Yeah.
But
so just sort of quick stuff that I found. Gleam of Authority is 1 and a white for an enchantment aura from dragons. It's enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on other creatures you control, and the enchanted creature has vigilance and white tap bolster 1.
Okay.
So maybe.
Maybe the bolster does make me wonder if does this deck want new Anafenza, even though it is double white, and I just said we shouldn't run double white cards.
I thought about that. So new Anafenza gets us in like Kitchen Fink's value engine,
right? And you could run Kitchen Finks in here.
You could also just run Malira though. You don't need to run Anafenza.
Well, the Anafenza is going to give counters on creatures.
Oh, sure.
And also, if you're curving Anafenza into, like, because that's also a good 2-drop in that situation.
Right.
Hardened Scales into Anafenza into our champion would then make champion also come in as a 3/3.
Okay.
Because you can do the bolster and then the counter from Hardened Scales, so...
All right.
And then every other creature coming in. That being said, when you said Kitchen Finks, I also thought of Stranglerootgeist, who both is going to come in with counters, as well as if you go Stranglerootgeist into your 3-drop, attack with Stranglerootgeist, it dies, it comes back with a counter. And because it's entering, is also going to put counters on your champion.
Yep.
There's a lot going on there.
And it'll come back with 2 counters if you have
right, if you have heart. So once again, like now we're just finding more and more 2-drops that help champion on turn 3.
Right.
At least be like a 3-powered creature, which is nice. Also, playing it makes it so that a 1/1 won't block the Stranglerootgeist.
Right.
Which can be nice. I think Stranglerootgeist seems pretty good because it, once again, we're already heavy green, it works well with counters, and it is going to provide 2 enter the battlefields for the champion.
All right, so let's start there. Let's do 4 Stranglerootgeists and maybe 2 Anafenzas.
Sure.
It's legendary, and it is double white.
Yep.
So, because we don't want we never want double green and double white in our opener,
right?
Because it's going to be almost impossible to guarantee that we'll be able to cast them.
With green white, we do have access to Rager Verge Thicket, which is huge. Like that's
Sure.
just a very, very good land. It is also worth mentioning: should we just be straight green white, or do we splash blue? And this is another really good like deck building thing to look at. Do we get enough benefit from splashing blue? Because running Geist in this deck is okay. With unblockable, like it's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it gets there in the end, but it's one of those things you just go down the list and consider like, is this good enough? Is this good enough? Is this good enough? And Geist might not be, and that's fine. But
I would say let's stay green white for now.
Yep.
And then we'll see, because it could certainly be this deck would be really amazing if we had like a ton of draw spells and
or tempo counter magic.
Yeah. All right, so what's next? So we need 1-drops. We're not always going to be able to play Hardened Scales on 1.
We We wish we could,
We wish we could.
but
So whenever the language on Champion of Lambholt is whenever another creature, it doesn't say non-token, because that was Avacyn Restored was like before that was a thing.
right.
So I'm almost thinking like Doom Traveler.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
You know, I mean, he's a built-in 2-for-1. So Doom Traveler, for those that don't remember, is he's a single white for human soldier, and when he dies, you put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. He's great.
Yeah, no, I think, and as soon as you were talking about it, yeah, I think as many, because this also goes well with Strangler-Geist, because now the deck is just making itself as 2-for-1 proof as possible.
Yeah.
And that's like super important.
So now it probably needs more. Right now we have 18 creatures.
Oh, it definitely needs more.
It needs more creatures than that, but I also think that it's worth looking at. Some of the token generators in white are very good. There's two that I'm thinking of. Gather the Townsfolk is 1 and a white for a sorcery. Put 2 1/1 white human creature tokens on the battlefield. It has Fateful Hour. If you have 5 or less life, put 5 tokens onto the battlefield instead.
I don't know if we're ever going to be that low on life, though.
Yeah. That's such an amazing card with Champion of the Parish. Like, I almost kind of want to go back to Champion of the Parish, because we are ending up with a lot of humans.
We are, but then we can also look and see, do we want to be human? Do we want champion? Or do we want to go more on the let's never be 1-for-1 ever theme?
Yep.
And add something like Voice of Resurgence.
Sure.
Which is, once again, like it makes a token, like it's 2-for-1 proof. It does kind of stop. Like if we add voice, then suddenly we don't really need blue anymore.
Right.
Like the blue splash just loses a lot of value, because this is going to help keep the tempo, like keep our opponent playing stuff on their turn, that sort of thing. So I think voice is really worth a look.
So here's the other thing that I think is important if we are going to go down the tokens route is instant speed. I think is pretty important. So one thing that I think would be pretty good in this deck is Secure the Wastes.
Okay.
X and white. Put X 1/1 white warrior creature tokens onto the battlefield.
I can't remember if it's white or white.
It's single white.
Okay.
I'm looking at it right now.
That's not bad.
So instant speed tokens, they're warriors. So if Bramblewood Paragon is out, they're going to come in as 2/2s.
Or with Hardened Scales.
Or Hardened Scales, yeah. With Hardened Scales and Bramblewood Paragon, they're going to come in as 3/3s, and each one of them is going to trigger Champion of Lambholt. I don't know that we need to have 4 of them, but I think 2 is probably an okay place to start.
Right. I think with all the Enter the Battlefield abilities and all of our creatures being aggressively costed, we need to decide if this is a Collected Company deck. And if it is, we kind of weigh the Collected Companies with the Secure the Wastes. Like you could do, like maybe we don't want 4 Collected Companies, but we don't want 4 Secure the Wastes, so it's like a 3-2 split. And we start looking at things like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's already Collected Company decks out there. Like
we don't have to brew something different. We have to brew something good,
sure,
featuring these cards. Like mainly our build arounds definitely are Champion and Bramblewood Paragon. Like Champion is definitely at the center of this deck, because we're just putting a lot of creatures into play, creatures that get counters, getting more value with our counters, and then also making our deck very safe from 2-for-1s.
Right.
And both Collected Company and Secure the Wastes do that.
All right. So I don't hate voice in this deck.
I think voice is just a slam dunk in this deck. Like if we went with Champion the Parish, it's not as good because it's not a human.
Yeah.
But if we're going wide and if we're making tokens with Secure the Waste, like the voice token that voice leaves behind is also just very, very good. Because now Secure the Waste also becomes like end of turn Secure the Waste for 4 also pumps up our voice token.
Yep, that's true. The other instant speed token generator that I was thinking of is Midnight Haunting. It's 2 and a white, and it puts 2/1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. There's certainly an argument to be made for running something like
Timely reinforcements.
Timely reinforcements would be very good. I was thinking
Probably not this deck because we're gonna have more creatures. Raise the alarm.
Yes, asterisk. What am I? Lingering Souls. Duh.
Oh, that's sorcerer speed. That's why I wasn't thinking of it.
Yeah.
And we're not running black currently.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a huge
Benefit.
reason to. Yeah. So let's do to secure the wastes, and why don't we start with?
Do we want to start with collected company or no? Not right away. I don't know. It depends how many hardened skills and Dramoka's commands and path. Because we need some interaction.
Sure.
And the main interaction is going to be Dramoka's command and path to exile.
Right. So I think we probably run.
Oh, also kitchen things. Yes or no?
Yes.
I kind of want to say yes.
Yeah, it's just too good.
Right.
That's the other thing. Just because a card is, don't play bad cards. There are certainly other cards that could go into that slot. Kitchen Finks has such a great interaction with Anafenza, and is very easy to cast in this deck, and has a 3/2 body. I mean, there's just.
It's good with champion too. Once again, this deck is very 1-for-1 proof. This deck's good matchups are going to be things like Grixis and Jund that just can't spend all of these. You feel awful, or even junk. You gonna path the Doom Traveler so you don't get a token? No. Right. Now you're just gonna have to deal with 2 creatures. Take your opponent that's forcing to 1-for-1 you, and make it so they can't. In Kitchen Finks gains you life. It's good against aggro. Main deck Kitchen Finks is just really good.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say 3, just because
3 Kitchen Finks.
Yeah. I don't know if we need 4.
I would slam dunk 4 all day.
Okay. All right. I'm down.
Yeah. We already did 2 Anafenzas. It's so easy to cast in this deck.
Yeah.
Also, our creature count isn't that high. I don't know what you. I think we're both building this at the same time, but I have 4 Doom Travelers, 2 Anafenzas, 4 Bramblewood Paragons, 4 Strangler-Geist, 4 Voice of Resurgence, 4 Champion of Lambholt, 4 Kitchen Finks.
Okay.
Which is 26 creatures.
Didn't put the voices in mine, but I will put them in right now.
Yeah, and only 26 creatures. That's not far from where I'd want to be. The only other consideration is, does this deck want mana dorks?
I don't think so.
It's something to do on turn 1, but I don't know. Noble Hierarch fits in very well. I don't know if you really want that many.
I almost think this deck would do just as good with Utopia Sprawl. Arbor Elf Utopia Sprawl.
Utopia Sprawl doesn't trigger a champion. Noble Hierarch coming down on turn 4 and going turn 4 Noble Hierarch Kitchen Finks is gonna trigger a champion twice. So there is that regard. But already we have 26 creatures. For spells, I'm at 4 hardened skills.
Yep.
I don't know if you did the interaction spells yet, but I did 3 path, 3 command.
Okay.
And I did 2 secures.
I had 4 paths.
That's the thing. We need to figure out how many slots in a deck you have for interaction. With such an aggressive deck like this, you have to keep your interaction as efficient as possible, and make sure that the slots you're dedicated to them are okay to dedicate to them. 6 slots might be too many, or it might be just right. I feel like neither of them need to be full on 4-ofs, or if they are, you really need to go down to 2 on the other. I feel like 6 slots is good for this deck, but I don't know.
I mean, it's a place to start, so let's.
Right, yeah, we're just trying to start now. And then I also added 4 Razor Root Thickets to start our mana base. Like, that's just
Sure.
the right place. If we're ignoring budget, we'd probably go for Windswept Heaths.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably correct.
Especially with the recent reprinting, it's not the end of the world.
And all right, so we'll come back to the mana base in a minute. So 26, 38. So we're at 22 lands right now. Yeah, 26 creatures, 12 spells, 38.
Oh yeah, 22 lands. That's probably too few lands.
Yeah.
By not running Collected Company, we don't have to worry about too much, but I feel like we need at least 23. And with no mana dorks, like I guess 23 is probably fine. But we really don't have a lot of 1 mana stuff. Like Path to Exile is good. And this is another thing to consider. Like, we may want to only put in 2 Jamoka's Command and 4 Path main deck to keep our mana base at 23 lands viable.
Yeah.
Because it gives us more 1 mana interaction, and running 23 lands hurts less.
All right, so let's make that change. So the spell section is going to be 4 Hardened Scales, 4 Path, 2 Secure the Waste, 2 Jamoka's Command. I think is fine.
Yep, sounds good to me.
All right, so let's think of. So, are there any other creatures? Are there creatures that are better than the creatures that we have right now? So, in the 1 slot, we have Doom Traveler.
The only 1 mana creatures I'd consider running besides Doom Traveler are probably Mana Dorks.
Okay.
Like, I would give Experiment 1 a slight thought, but not much, because most of our creatures are coming into play as very small,
right,
and then they're growing bigger.
Yeah.
So, like, Experiment 1 comes down, and then turn 2 you play a 1/1, or a 2 powered creature, and with Hardened Scales out, let's say it becomes a full 3/3. Nothing in the deck is evolving it beyond that point, except for the voice token. So I just don't like Experiment 1 in this deck.
No. Let me think. So 2 Tongue-Thou, Blisterpod. Blisterpod gives us mana and a creature. That's something.
I mean, maybe like you can theoretically we don't cycle it for another token with Secure the Wastes. Like, it's just replacing itself and giving an extra token to replace itself.
Yeah, and it does give a better body.
Right, with Hardened Scales or Bramblewood Paragon in play, like sacking that. So it's possible we don't want the double white on Anafenza, and we replace the 2 Anafenzas with Blister Pods. But I don't know if that's... Because where else are you getting the cut, right?
Well, because then if we really wanted to go, we would cut 2 Anafenzas, 1 Kitchen Finks, and...
I don't think you need a 4 of Blister Pod. Like, I think it's fine, but like 6 or 7 1-drop creatures along with Hardened Scales gives you 10 or 11 1-drops.
Yeah.
Or 10 or 11 things to do on turn 1. And your other things to do on turn 1 are play a fetch land, crack it, and only spend 1 life to get your Temple Garden into play.
So I think Blisterpod is worth a look over Anafenza. Like, we cut 2 Anafenzas and 1 Kitchen Finks. It'll give us 3 Blisterpods, which is 2 Champion of Lambholt triggers too, which is nice. So I'm going to move them to the side.
I don't want to move Anafenza to the side. Like, I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
But I would move the 4th Kitchen Finks to the side.
Okay. Well, where are we going to get the other slots for the Blister Pods?
Cutting 1 Kitchen Finks and cutting 2 Anafenzas. Don't move them to the side. And just... You meant in the software.
In the software, yes.
Yeah, shout out to Decked Builder.
Yeah, Decked Builder.
I use this thing all the time.
So good.
Okay, so just quick comments on the mana base. Like, right now, everything's just 4 of Razor Ridge, like a Temple Garden, Windswept Heath. That's not necessary.
Yeah.
So you, like, make budget replacements as necessary. I think running a couple Sun Petal Groves is actually a nice budget nod. Like, they're $2, maybe $2.50.
Yeah.
And everything in this, like, you can't run
They're
a lot
also
of them.
they're also really good. Like
You can't run a lot of them because of Razor Verge Ticket.
yeah.
Like, opening yourself up to the awkward draw of Razor Verge Ticket Sun Petal Grove
Yeah.
is not very good, especially if it's a Razor Verge Ticket Petal Grove. So I would only run 2 Sun Petal Groves.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
But that is fine. And if you're not running any Razor Verge Thickets because you don't own any, then run 4 Sun Petal Groves.
Yep.
And already we're at 14 lands. I'm okay running 8 basics in this deck. Basically, like, run 8 basics and take basics out and replace them with Wooded Foothills according to budget, basically.
I mean, I don't even think we need 4 Temple Gardens. That's the thing. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. So I'm going to basically do like the extreme expensive mana base, and then take things out to budget. So I'll add the 4 Wooded Foothills, and if you already own them, fantastic. If you don't, then you don't need them. Like, I think it's more important to have 4 Temple Gardens than it is to have the extra Wooded Foothills. Well, I guess not, actually. Like, having 2 Temple Gardens.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and then we can just... and once again, like, Horizon Canopy, would it be good in this deck? Absolutely.
Sure.
Do you need it? Absolutely not.
Right.
So, let's see. All right, 22 lands. No, I want at least 23 lands.
Yeah, so let's do...
Which means we need to cut 1 card, according to what I have here. And I think 23 lands is necessary. Do we go down to 2 blister pods?
All right. So what's the cut?
I'm pretty sure it's blister pod. It's good, but it's not fantastic. We have enough things to do on turn 1. With 10 things to do on turn 1, statistically there should be 1 in our opener. Sure. And our opener doesn't have to, like, you don't really necessarily want to draw a blister pod on turn 10.
It's true.
So I think the 23rd land is way more important than a blister pod.
All right, so let's do... So as it stands right now, our 60, or the 60 that I have, is 2 Blister Pod, 4 Doom Traveler, 4 Bramblewood Paragon, 4 Strangleroot Geist, 4 Voice of Resurgence, 4 Champion of Lambholt, 3 Kitchen Finks, 4 Hardened Scales, 4 Path to Exile, 2 Secure the Wastes, 2 Dramoka's Command, 3 Forest, 4 Plains, 4 Razor Verge Thicket, 2 Sun Petal Grove, 2 Temple Garden, 4 Windswept Heath, and 4 Wooded Foothills.
Right. So first of all, the mana base really is going to be like spice to taste and budget. Like, that's, you might already own Windswept Heaths and Wooded Foothills and not Temple Gardens, so you only buy the 2 Temple Gardens.
Yep.
Secondly, I don't know how we both forgot this, but one of these lands should just be a Gavany Township, if not 2.
Yes.
Like, we both totally missed Gavany Township.
I would feel very comfortable cutting either a Plains or a Sun Petal Grove.
I cut a Wooded Foothills, so I was only on 3 of them.
Okay. I'm fine
which
with
is
that.
Which is also like one of the more expensive. I think it's actually the most expensive land in the deck. So in my pretend money grows on trees and there is no budget in the world version, it still comes out to like 413 if you own none of these cards. So
other things that I would consider for this deck,
403, I lied.
Dryad Arbor probably wouldn't be a bad ad.
It's not. I also don't know if it's necessary.
Well, it's not necessary, but it's nice. All right, so let's go back over and see. So 2 Blister Pods. Is there something better than Blister Pod? I don't think so.
If we're looking for 1-drops,
because
giving priority to green cards, probably not. I'm going to goldfish a couple hands while you talk.
Okay. I'm going to look for other green 1-drops that do something that is conceivably better than what Blister Pod gives us, which is 2 triggers. Arbor Elf, no. Addison's Pilgrim, no. Bird's Paradise, no. Bond Beetle, no.
Yeah. Deck's great. Magic's great. First Goldfish was Doom Traveler into Bramblewood Paragon into Champion with Path, Voice, and Champion in hand.
Seems pretty good.
Seems fine to me. Untap, draw Jamoka's command. Oh, yeah.
um, Copperhorn Scout. I would consider that.
Sure.
You know, Diagraph Escort. If you run a if you run this deck in a place where everyone else is running 4 Gurmag Anglers, Diagraph Escort is your silver bullet.
Well, I also like it because there are like a very good amount of sideboard cards too.
Sure.
Like I'm just looking at something like Thalia in the board seems really good.
Yep. Dryad Militant.
Man.
So I would actually consider Dryad Militant.
Dryad Militant could be main decked in the Blisterpod slot.
Essence Warden. You actually, in this deck, honestly, since we don't have Anafenza anymore, we could probably cut the Kitchen Finks and replace them with Essence Wardens.
No. Because Kitchen Finks is just very, very good. Like, not only is it good, it's main deck life gain, and it can't be 2 for 1.
Sure.
So I think that's the bigger thing here. The only other thing I want to look at once again is, are there any white or green warrior stuff from Khan's block that gets better? Like Herald of Anafenza, a 1/2 for 1 white you can outlast for 3 mana, and whenever you outlast it, not only do you put like a +1/+1 counter on it, you get a 1/1 white warrior, which is only good in grindy matchups.
Yeah,
like that's something to keep in mind.
Do the transform cards count as entering the battlefield when they flip?
Yes. Because when flip cards are transformed, they are exiled, flipped, and then returned to the battlefield.
Okay, interesting. There is a.
Oh, you could run Rice the Redeemed if you really wanted to. Another warrior that costs 1.
Yep, no, I like him.
It's good, but I don't know if it's like, because of the mana investment, I don't know that's better than Doom Traveler, which is just going to make a token when it dies.
Yeah.
Like, I think the efficiency of Doom Traveler and Blisterpod is just so high that anything that requires mana in the 1-drop slot just isn't worth it. Sunblade Elf?
I do like Sunblade Elf. I considered him, but
not with 4 Razor Bridge tickets.
No. I mean, he's a 2/2 for 1. You know, he's 2/3 of a Wild Nacatl. But I suppose actually in this deck we probably just could play Wild Nacatl.
You could take the free red splash, absolutely. I don't know what else you gain.
Not much. I mean, you do get burn, but I don't think this deck wants burn.
I don't think it needs it is really the big thing.
Yeah.
You're going so wide and your threats are so resilient. I also did consider... now it just totally slipped my mind. Oh, the double green Avatar of the Resolute.
Yep.
Yeah, comes into play with counters equal to how many counters on creatures you can... creatures with counters you control. Yeah. So,
and he comes with reach and trample.
Right. Like, it's a very good card. It's a very good 2-drop. But I kind of like the 2-drops we already have better.
We're already giving... So, like, the advantage that he has in a deck where other things don't have reach or trample is that he has those things, but Bramblewood Paragon's going to give all our guys trample anyways.
Right. And it was, like, if it was somehow like an Avatar Warrior, I'd consider it more, but then it's probably taking the Paragon slot, and that's just probably not as good. So, I mean, this looks fairly solid.
Let's see. Race the Redeemed, I don't hate him. I mean, Sanctuary Cat, obviously.
Sanctuary Cat's real good.
Super value. It's 1 for a 1/2. That's Cat. It is the opposite of Savannah Lion.
Still have my foil. It's almost a Savannah Lion. I had it oracled when it was in my cube, so that it was a 2/1 for 1.
Nice.
Yep. That cube is currently taken apart, but that's fine.
All right. So,
man, turn 4, Champion of Lambholt with 2 Doom Travelers. I can just throw at something.
Yep.
Strangler guy's so good.
Yeah, it's the card is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so far, like in the very few hands that I've tested the list out, like the resiliency is really the strong suit. The issue, though, obviously, is Champion of Lambholt and Bramblewood Paragon are the linchpins of the deck.
Right.
Everything else but them can be one for one, and they're the cards that can be one for one, and they're the ones you want the most on the field.
Right.
So that does kind of hurt the most. So in some decks, you probably are going to like Jamoka's Command more than others.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, and I mean it might be worth it even to just run some kind of main deck protection spell.
the list is already so tight.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's worth it. I think it's just better to be like, okay,
some of these guys are going to die.
Yeah, some of these guys are going to die, and I already have so much value in the play.
Yeah.
Like, your deck is almost wrath-proof. Like, Voice, Strangergeist, Blisterpod, Doom Traveler, Kitchen Finks all come back.
Yep.
Like, this deck is just going to keep coming back. It almost makes me wonder if instead of Secure the Wastes, you want a Return to the Ranks or something.
I was thinking Rootborn defenses. All your creatures are indestructible and you populate. I mean, like, just with a voice token.
Well, because my Rootborn defenses is better against a Wrath.
Yeah.
But Return to the Ranks is good on turn 7 when your creatures just naturally died.
Sure.
So that's where I'm going with that. And also, your Convoke is just always going to be turned on really high. So I would maybe consider that over Secure the Wastes.
So the problem with Return to the Ranks is it's only 2 or less, so it's not going to get back your champion.
I mean, it doesn't get back your champion or your Kitchen Finks, but what is it getting back? Your Blisterpods, your Doom Travelers, your Paragons, your Geists, and your Voice of Resurgence. Like, getting back quite a bit.
So is Rally the Ancestors...
Not good in this deck.
Not good in this deck.
Probably not, no. More sideboard options I'm just looking at. Scavenging Ooze is real good.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to kind of not buy Scavenging Oozes for some reason, which you totally should, and you should totally buy the alternate art ones because they're the same exact price and they look 100 times better.
Kind of like the normal Scavenging Oozes. It's fine.
I don't know. It's just so bulbous.
It's a bulb.
No, I know. But
it's
the other
blob of ooze.
No, but it's not. That's the problem. It's like
it is a bulb.
It's too fleshy. I like the.
Well, it's a creature.
The alternate art one is just like a pile of ooze that's eating a bunch of people. It's truth in advertising.
What else is good in the board? Spellskite's good in the board.
Yeah, Spellskite, super good.
Gaddock Teague. Since we're not running Collected Company.
Does he turn off our X spells?
Yes.
So I mean, I guess it would be a straight swap with
Secure the Waste.
With Secure the Waste.
It's like, well, these are coming out, and those are going in. I'm just thinking of things that mess up our opponents.
So here's the thing. What does this deck not want to see? It doesn't want to see Wraths.
Well, no, it does want to see Wraths. Like, this deck is Wrath.
Oh, actually, yeah, it doesn't care.
It doesn't so much care about Wraths. It does care about decks that can almost grind us out. So I guess Tron's a little bit of an issue. So you want to stock up on Stony Silences and some sort of land destruction, I guess. Like, because what happens if they slam a Wormcoil? Can we race a Wormcoil engine? Like, it maybe.
Maybe. I mean, Creeping Corrosion might be a little bit slow.
Right. No, I think 3 Stony Silence is probably correct. Also, I don't know how Twin is. I think Thalia's good.
Yep.
I don't know if Pride Mage is good.
Pride Mage is always good.
Then do we add 2 Pride Mage to the board?
Yes.
If I spell it correctly. Yeah.
Because that might be, like, I think Pride Mage actually solves a lot of the problems that this deck has with those kinds of matchups. Like, I'm almost All right, let me clean up my sideboard here because I was using it as a maybe board.
Oh, I have 13 cards on my sideboard,
Uh,
and it might need more Pride Mages.
yeah, Pride Mages are good. Okay, so right now I have 7 cards in my sideboard. What is in yours?
I have 2 Kasali Pride Mage, 2 Scavenging Ooze, 2 Spellskite,
Oh,
3 Stony Silence, 3 Thalia, 1 Kitchen Finks, because I did want the 4th in there. Because that's the other thing, like, there are probably red, green, and zoo aggro decks that are faster than us, and burn is faster than us, and they're probably clogging up the board as fast as us. The same with Affinity. Like, we are very good against grindy decks, but I feel like other aggro decks are just a couple turns faster than us, and we can't really compete. Like, we're playing turn 1 Doom Traveler, and Affinity is playing 3 permanents and then dropping an Etch Champion. Like, we can't race that.
All right, so speaking of Etch Champion, is he an issue?
Now with Spellskite in the board.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so here's what I have in the side right now: 2 Gaddock Teague, 2 Kasali Pride Mage, 2 Scavenging Ooze, 2 Spellskite, 3 Stony Silence, 3 Thalia, 1 Kitchen Finks. 15 cards.
I have everything but the Gaddock Teague. Is there anything else? Because I was like, man, is Sinvala good? But then I'm like, no, it's not, because we're going so wide. Liliana sacrificing our stuff isn't relevant. Like,
No,
we're always going to have a Doom Traveler, a Blisterpod, or a token to sacrifice.
Yeah, and if it was that much of a concern, like, we could do the Dryad Arbor Shuffle.
Right. I'm wondering if, because I didn't put the Gaddock Teagues in, I'm wondering if we just want the other 2 Dramoka's commands. Because let me look and see what's Teague doing. I don't know. It would, like, normally Teague would stop Wraths, but we don't care that much about Wraths. And Dramoka's command will answer Anger. Like, Anger the Gods is the only Wrath we care about, because it's exiling our stuff instead of killing, so it hurts Kitchen Finks, Doom Traveler, Blisterpod, Strangergrace. Like, Anger the Gods is the only Wrath we care about. Do we just want the 14th and 15th sideboard card to be the other 2 Dramoka's commands?
Maybe. Because what else?
That's how I'm currently leaning.
Yeah. What else would we put there? Celestial Purge is very good.
Yeah. I mean, then we can always look back and see, do we need 3 Thalias or is 2 okay? Yeah. And things like that. I still think 3 Stony Silence is important. Yeah. Like 3 Stony Silence plus Spellskite plus Kasali Pride Mage to board in against Affinity and take out some of the non-impact cards. Yeah. Like, let's face it, we're not going to cast Secure the Waste against Affinity, most likely.
No, that's not a winning game plan.
That's probably not. Like, the only time it would be is if like we have 8 chump blockers for something. Yeah. Like, I think I like the Dramoka's commands. Celestial Purge is really answering Keranos, but what else? Like, I don't know how much we care about. I think I'd rather have a Crozen Grip than a Celestial Purge.
I think we probably would need Crozen Grip or Pride Mage, but not both. Okay. And I guess in that instance, I actually kind of like Crozen Grip better.
I don't know. I like the Exalted, and I like.
Well, when are we ever going to be attacking with one creature? Right, yeah, like, that's true. Literally never. And
I don't want
the same amount.
Grips though.
Why not?
I don't know if we're going to use it. No, like, I was thinking, because we don't have access to Rending Volley, like, we want something against Twin besides 4 paths. Like, I don't know if path, like, we're going to be grinding out advantage with Thalias. Like, we bring in Thalia against them, but that still means that, like,
well, no, then we bring in Essence Warden. She's real good against Twin.
I don't have Essence Warden. I don't think Essence Warden's a good enough sideboard card. He doesn't do enough. Like I feel like Twin is almost a problem. I guess with Thalia, Kitchen Finks, like they can't one for one us, and 4 paths we're getting there. But yeah, I think we need Pride Mage or Crozen Grip. Do we take the Pride Mage out and put in like 1 Celestial Purge, 1 Crozen Grip?
Yeah, I could get down with that. Celestial Purge is good in a lot of matches. Alright. The Celestials have been purged.
Because I think we have enough game against Affinity, I hope, that we can run a Celestial Purge instead of another artifact hate card.
Yeah.
Like that's the hope. Because Celestial Purge just gives us a lot of game. Because like we can basically keep on par with the grindiness of Jund and Grixis, but Olivia Valderin is a potential problem. So having 5 cards to answer Olivia post board's kind of big. We don't actually have any graveyard hate.
Yeah.
Oh no, we have 2
scavengers. We have 2
Never
scavengers.
mind.
That's something.
Yeah, that's fine. Everything's fine. But yeah, so overall, I think at least for the short amount of time we actually put into this, like I feel like this is a very good starting point, and I don't want to spend too much time on sideboards because there's such adjust to your meta sort of thing. But at least the main deck looks solid enough, and if you disagree with a couple cards, feel free to like let us know. But
yeah,
I think so. This type of exercise when you're building around a card, like just as a short recap, I mean, we looked at the strengths of it. Now we're gonna go super super wide, and they're all gonna be unblockable. So they're not going to be able to chump or just use Tarmogoyf to block 1 creature every turn. Like you're just getting in for the full amount of damage, and they're not going to be able to race.
Right.
So, but I do like, maybe Anafenza does belong in this deck. Maybe someone that's listening to this podcast should try it.
Yep.
And see if it is better. Because I mean, like Anafenza plus Bramblewood Paragon is just very good. Like all of your creatures are gonna have trample for free. Like,
yeah. So we're kind of like creeping up on 3 mana, and I haven't found anything that I love.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I feel like this main deck is a very very good starting point. And then things can be like tested and problems can be ironed out.
Right, so now we're into 4 mana. That is too much. Okay,
that is definitely too much.
So here are the other spicy considerations that I would at least think about. Heir of the Wilds, 1 and a green. He's a human and a warrior. He's a 2/2 Death Touch, and whenever he attacks, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, which is going to be basically all the time.
Well, hopefully.
Heir of the Wilds gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Death Touch is really good.
Yeah.
The ability to basically trade with anything is worth considering. Herald of Dramoka is 1 and a white for a human warrior with vigilance, and other warrior creatures you control have vigilance. I don't know if vigilance is necessarily good enough to spend a card on, but it's something. Nacatl Savage is 1 and a green for a cat warrior. He is a 2/1 with protection from artifacts. If you have a ton of affinity in your meta, it's not great, but it's neat. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Nissa's Chosen, double green for a 2/3 elf warrior. If Nissa's Chosen, we put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put it on the bottom of its owner's library instead. Interesting. Great against lantern control. Let's see. Secret of the Way is not good. Hungry Spriggan is a stretch. 2 and a green. He is a warrior, goblin warrior with trample. Whenever he attacks, he gets +3/+3 until end of turn. He's not good enough, but I like him. Obsidian Battle Axe. This is actually something that is in my head borderline playable. It's a 3-mana tribal artifact warrior equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+1 and has haste. And whenever a warrior creature comes into play, you may attach Obsidian Battle Axe to it for free, or it has equip 3. So it's like a weird unholy strength.
Yeah, like costing 3 is really the problem.
Yeah, if it costs 2, I think it would be worth doing.
Now, like you said, it's a weird unholy strength that costs 2 to equip.
Yeah.
Like that, I don't think that's good enough.
Well, no, it costs 3 because
Well, no, I'm saying like unholy strength would cost 1, and then it's like you're equipping.
Oh yeah, got it. Okay. Kasali Ambusher. It's 1, a green, and a white for a 2/3 cat warrior with reach. If a creature is attacking you and you control a forest and a plains, which you always will, you may play Kasali Ambusher without paying its mana cost and as though it had flash. So
discarding a card to kill a insectile aberration doesn't seem worth it. Like I've actually looked at this card pretty in depth for reasons.
Yeah. Well, because like on its face, the effect is very powerful.
Right, and no, the effect is powerful. The end result is just shy. Like if you were stretching it and you wanted to play modern green-white cats or Naya cats, you would probably run the card. If you're playing cards that have types that are not cat, there are better 3-drops.
Sure.
Like, and it sucks too because I do really, really like this card. Like,
yeah.
I really wanted to like play stuff just, like Fleecemane Lion, Wild Nacatl, Kasali Ambusher, Kasali Pride Mage. Like there is a deck there.
Yeah.
And you don't in that point it's not even just cats, it's just efficient creatures in green and white. And you top it with other things. But it just the power level was always just shy. Like it's another problem with Bolt dealing 3 damage.
Well, I don't know. I think in this deck though, like because he's a warrior, like all the warrior synergy stuff, like if there is a Bramblewood Paragon on the field, he's gonna come down as a 3/4 for 0. Stop it. I mean, like, right, I don't think it's better. I don't think it's better than Kitchen Finks. Like, that's the problem.
Right. This deck really doesn't want more 3-drops.
Yeah.
Because if it did, I would even argue that Abzan Falconer, the one of in the Naya allies list that we talked about, might just be better. Because it's giving all of your things flying. And it's, at this point, not good enough because your champion is already making them close to unblockable.
Yeah.
So...
so the last one is Wolfear Avenger. It's 1 and 2 green for a wolf warrior with flash. He's a 3/3 and he regenerates for 1 and a green. The deck is already so resilient to removal.
Right.
Like the regeneration, I don't think is necessarily worth it. But you know, that said, having a regenerating 3/3 or 4/4 is not the worst. So that would be at least a fringe consideration or something to try. If you are, I don't know, just want to try a bunch of cool cards. Right. I mean, like all the cards that we talked about, like all those sideboard, you know, the spicy option, they're all cheap. I mean, they're 10 cents. Yeah. The most expensive one I think was 80 cents.
And if you have some of these cards, or if you play like Abzan Collected Company, like this deck would be very cheap to put together.
Yeah.
And we will post our final list when this episode goes out. But I guess in the meantime, like, can probably work on a budget version as well.
Yeah. All right. What am I missing from the sideboard here? I have 1 Celestial Purge, 2 Scavenging Ooze, 2 Spellskite, 3 Stony Silence, 3 Thalia, 1 Kitchen Finks, 1 Crozen Grip.
Jamoka's commands?
Oh, 2 Jamoka's commands.
I think having all the Jamoka's commands available to you is really important up against Anger of the Gods decks. Because, like I said, Anger of the Gods is this deck's weakness.
And it's good against Twin.
And yeah. Like, it's fine against Twin. Mostly against Twin, you're probably bringing like Celestial Purge, Spellskite, Thalia, and Crozen Grip. And that's already even like a lot of cards. I'm not even sure
I don't know
what
if
you
you
cut for
need that
that.
many
Yeah.
cards.
Like, well, those are all cards that are good in the matchup. Like, you might just not bring in Celestial Purge is good if they go on the Keranos plan,
Yep.
or the Tasker plan.
Sure.
Like, it's a 2-mana Doomblade for Tasker. Like, it's even better because it is exiling. So
Yeah.
like, there's no reason why not to board in these cards. The hardest part is going to be making cuts.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Bramblewood Paragon. No, not even. Like,
No, I think actually in that scenario, Strangleroot is actually probably the worst card in the deck.
I don't even think so because they have to waste 2 cards on it. Like, everything you play, they have to kill.
Yeah.
I guess it actually, unfortunately, might be the build around.
Yeah,
card.
it might be Champion Limit.
It might be
Yeah.
Champion, just because they don't run enough creatures for you to care about unblockable.
Right.
And a 1/1 for 3 just isn't as good as bringing in Thalia
Yep.
and Spellskite. So, yeah, unfortunately might be. But, I mean, overall, I thought this was pretty cool. I like this list.
Yeah. I think this deck is pretty tight.
Right. I mean, and this is a very common place where people start brewing decks. And that's kind of like why I wanted to start with build around and top down design and stuff like that. And we do it all the time. Like, we'll build, yeah, we'll take a card and build around it, and that's where a lot of people are coming from, especially into Modern, where you either played years ago and you're coming back into Magic, and this is the format to buy into because like $200-300 instead of $600 or $700 for Standard, which is insane. But or if you're going from Standard and you want to move into Modern because you love this card, and like I could see someone doing that, like loving Champion in Avacyn Restored Standard, and it rotates out and being like, man, how do I make this work in Modern? And now we have so many good cards. Like,
this deck is sick. Like, like some of the so the goldfish stuff is like,
I know, right?
Ridiculous.
And then it's like, well, what happens if they like bolt something and like, oh wait, I just get a 1/1. That's right.
It doesn't matter. It
just
literally doesn't matter. So the final list, the list that we're gonna end with right now, the non-budget version is 2 Blisterpod, 4 Doom Traveler, 4 Bramblewood Paragon, 4 Strangleroot, 4 Voice of Resurgence, 4 Champion of Lambholt, 3 Kitchen Finks, 4 Hardened Scales, 4 Path to Exile, 2 Secure the Waste, 2 Dramoka's Command, 3 Forest, 1 Gavany Township, 4 Plains, 4 Razor Verge Thicket, 2 Sunpetal Grove, 2 Temple Garden, 4 Windswept Heath, 3 Wooded Foothills, and the sideboard is 1 Celestial Purge, 2 Dramoka's Command, 2 Scavenging Ooze, 2 Spellskite, 3 Stony Silence, 3 Thalia, 1 Kitchen Finks, and 1 Crozen Grip. The other nice thing about this deck is, man, staples everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, so all of your sideboard is staples.
Right. Yep.
The mana base, you are set to play green-white X decks forever.
Yep.
Path to Exile, huge. Kitchen Finks, Voice Resurgence. Strangleroot probably deserves to be on that list, but currently isn't.
Yeah.
And so your bulk cards, like the cards that won't see a lot of play in other decks, are like Doom Traveler, Blisterpod, Champion, and Bramblewood Paragon. And I'm pretty sure the price of all those put together might be $10.
Yeah, it might be $5. Bramblewood Paragon
is
jumped
like
up.
$7 on its own for a playset. Champion is about just under $4.
Yep.
So, and then Blisterpods and Doom Travelers might be $1 together. So you're looking at just over $10 in cards that you won't find easy homes for. Maybe add Secure the Waste, but even then, you're getting like with less than $15 of what I like to refer to as like deck waste, which are things you can't move to other decks. That's very good.
Yeah,
like that's very, very good. And this could easily be turned into like an Obzon deck.
Yes. Well, I was gonna say like a lot of the stuff that's in here, like you could very easily turn this into like the Abzan Aristocrats, Abs and Aristocrats.
Yeah, it very easily ports into Aristocrats because the big expensive part in both this deck and that deck is Voice Resurgence.
Yep.
Voice Resurgence is very good if you need more budget cuts. I would suggest replacing one voice with Kitchen Finks. The important thing is the lack of being 2-for-1.
Yeah.
And in that sense, Kitchen Finks is cheaper but not quite as good because voices went down for a bit and then just went right back up. Like it's a mythic from a set that wasn't open very much.
Yep.
And it's just such a good card.
Yeah.
I think I might actually only own 3 of them now. I think I might have ditched one a while back and I regret it.
Yeah. No, I was fortunate. The Battle for Zendikar fat pack that I picked up had an Expedition Stomping Ground in it. So I traded that away for a set of voices.
And I'm also looking at the prices. The creature base, you just don't want to cut anything. Like the main budget switch is take out a voice and add a Kitchen Finks, which saves you
$15.
Yeah, around $15. And then it's mostly mana based decisions. Like you take out the Wooded Foothills to start if you don't own them. And then you slowly go from there. Like I think you probably cut 2 Razor Verge tickets and add 2 Sun Petal Groves because they just don't function very well together.
Yeah.
But the Sun Petal Grove is actually just very good.
Yeah, I mean, you could put in Brushlands too.
So I was going with this because adding more basics and Sun Petal Groves synergize better.
Sure.
Because you need the forests and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it already does. I mean, like 7 basics is a lot. Like 7 basics and then 2. Like I wonder if this could be even a deck for Canopy Vista, just because it does run so many basics.
That's actually true. The issue is Canopy Vista isn't that. I think it might be more than Razor Verge Thicket because Razor Verge Thicket's only about $8.50 to $9. So I don't know if you're actually saving that much with the Switch. You would be saving if you replace...
you save like $1. And it is fetchable, and with so many basics, like it's going to come into play untapped.
Is that to replace basics and the thickets then?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
So if you don't want to shell out for Razor Verge Thickets, I think Canopy Vista is
like
probably...
I mean, Spellskite's the other big offender.
Yeah.
At being a $21 creature. If you take him out, you need more affinity things, so you probably add the second Crossing Grip. Like you want something against Twin, and you want something against Bogles, and
you could take you already had Dramoka's Command against Bogles is like crazy.
Now you have a whole bunch though, and it's also good, like I said, good against Twin, good against affinity.
If you were gonna cut the Spellskites, I would probably put another Crossing Grip and maybe a Kataki.
Yeah, and both of which are much more money efficient.
Right. Not that Spellskite isn't great, because he is. He's amazing.
Yeah. But I mean, with those cuts, the deck is closer to $350. It's more like $360.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't add the Canopy Vistas because I think that actually raises the price. So I just have more basic Sun Petal Groves, 2 Razor Ridge Thickets, which is nice because there are only 2 lands that don't synergize with Sun Petal Grove in your entire deck.
Yeah.
So
that's
really nice.
That's another argument for Canopy Vista though. You could run Canopy Vista
as a 4 of, but then you're raising the price. I'm saying if you're looking for the bottom dollar version,
got it.
That's more money efficient.
Yeah, I mean the full, even so, the full cost, everything, TCG mid is like a little bit over 500.
Right, and you might own the cards. Like you might own Voice Resurgence from last rotation. You might own Windswept Heaths and Wooded Foothills, which are the most expensive things in the deck.
Yep.
Like those are the 3 most expensive cards. If you have Path to Exile already, that's another like 34 that you save. So this can definitely be made even more budget. Like if you replace the Path to Exiles with Condemn
Sunlands,
Sunland's probably not good enough. Because anytime Sunlance could kill something, Jamoka's Command could kill something because you're just fighting something.
Yeah, that's true.
So you really need the ability to kill anything. Dismember might have a spot in the deck.
Yeah.
Especially as a budget option. So
yeah. Oust.
Right, yeah. Like if you have 3 Path to Exiles, run 3 paths and an Oust, 3 paths and a Dismember.
Yep.
So the deck is very flexible, and the core of the deck, besides Voice of Resurgence, is very inexpensive.
Yep.
So I like it. This was...
Yeah, and you could even, like, if you didn't want to shell out for the voices, like, running 4 Scavenging Ooze in that slot is not going to make you sad.
It would make me sad.
Well, okay.
No, Voice of Resurgence is like a big card for me. Like,
sure.
I love it.
Yeah, but it's also like $100 for a set.
Yep. It was $100 for a set when I bought it 2 years ago.
Right.
I was almost upset when it went down to 18, but then I just went back and I'm just like, all right, I'm not upset anymore.
Yeah. No, that is one of those cards, man.
It's just so good. Like,
yeah.
You play Voice of Resurgence and you get a 2/2 for 2, and then it dies and you get a Scion of the Wilds
right
for free. Like,
yeah. The other, what other card do I really, what other card I really like in this deck potentially? No, there's not enough green white. Shield of the Oversoul. It's the green white version of Steel of the Godhead.
Okay.
It gives indestructible and flying, I believe, and +2/+2.
That's fine, but like you're only giving it to Voice and Kitchen Finks.
Yep.
Like it's probably not good enough.
No, it's not. In a dedicated like green white hybrid deck,
right?
It's
yeah.
really good.
That's actually one of the reasons why I bumped it up from 4 to 5 mana. Is because I know you like the Liege cycle.
I do like that. I do like.
On the off chance we won the Liege lottery,
yeah,
that was an option.
Yep.
I'm just gonna go on Puka Trade and ask for a Voice Resurgence. I have nothing else to do with the Puka points. Like I'm running out.
Yeah, I just
condensing my collection.
Just load up on cons fetches.
I only have like $35.
Oh, right.
So I can get a Voice and bulk cards for our next video. Actually, I have the deck for the next video.
You should put 8 Champion of Lambholts on there so we can both have a set.
All right, I'll look for it. No, we're going to have a shared podcast set.
Okay, that's fine. I'll find some. I'll dig some up.
No, I'll let you borrow the Champion of Lambholt. It's fine. Because we only have... Oh, no, we have 2 sets of Voice Resurgence.
Yep.
We can play the mirror match.
Yeah,
wow, 1,700 halves, 70 wants. It's just criminal. Man, how many can I have? Oh, man, it's wanted by, like, 8 people. That's not actually true. Some people want more than 1 copy. But yeah.
Demand.
I need to make sure I have enough points for the Voice Resurgence and
yeah, right, yeah, exactly. You don't get 8 Champion of Lambholts in the mail,
not a Voice
and not have enough for the voice.
Foiled again.
I don't think you need to get foils.
I don't.
They're $250.
Did there. No, someone needs to accept a trade that I'm currently doing. The last trade I'm doing on Puka Trade for quite some time. Nothing wrong with Puka Trade currently, just I condensed my collection and don't have as much to give. So I'm over the limit of what I have because I don't want to take off the foil Firebolt and foil Pacifism that I want for the flavor text collection.
What's on the foil Pacifism?
Oh, it's just a foil with the normal Pacifism.
Oh, okay.
Flavor text from Grok.
Oh, yes.
Grok.
Yep.
Warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
Firebolt's better. Reach out and torch someone.
I like it.
Yep.
I like it a lot.
Just a burn spell.
Yep.
It's shock with flashback, and that's just great.
I don't know if great is the word that I would use.
Value.
Well, because what's the flashback, like 5?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I thought it was 2 because the 4 got all weird in the like small image.
Yeah, no.
Just like flashback for 2 is fine. That's 4 damage for 3 mana. That's pretty good.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
If they reprinted this as like shock with flashback 2, that'd be super playable. At least in the standard.
Sure. Yeah, because the burn in standard right now is a sad and sorry state.
It would be playable in standard because it doesn't deal it doesn't kill 3 toughness creatures. Like, they're moving away from 3 damage burn spells that cost 2 or less,
Right.
which is making 3 mana X3s more playable, and I really like that, because that's what they should have been doing from the beginning of Magic, and that frustrates me to no end.
Sure.
Poor Vampire Nighthawk.
Man.
And the new one! They just kept doing it. They keep printing these 2/3 vampires for 3.
I know.
And they just aren't good enough.
I know.
Because lightning bolt.
I know. But I will say, I think Wasteland Strangler is the new Shriekmaw. That's my...
It's not the new Shriekmaw.
In a sense. In certain decks, it is a better Shriekmaw.
One kills Celestial Colonnade. The other doesn't. I can list creatures if you want.
Sure. It kills X3s. And then leaves behind a 3/2.
Which is relevant because of all of the black X3s that are being played.
I'm just saying, it's not a bad card.
No, it's not a bad card. Like, objectively, as Magic cards are concerned, it's definitely in the top 50%. It doesn't mean it's modern playable.
I don't know.
No, so we're also referencing, like, your processor brew.
Oh, the processor deck.
So the Esper processor deck that you have actually evolved quite far, that I just can't stop hemming and hawing over, because the shell is great and you have no payoff. Like, they just need to print a better processor in Oath, and if they do, the deck's great, and if they don't, it's an awesome shell that doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Oh, that
But
just...
So I guess we hope that some people got something out of this episode.
Yes.
I certainly had a lot of fun recording it. Like, it kind of breaks down the process of how you have to look at cards and evaluate what is this deck supposed to do to make this card and all the other ones good, and why is this good in Modern. And right now the answer is questions. Like, we answered them pretty well, and I think we made the deck very Modern proof in a sense. Like, it's very good against Grixis, Jund, Twin.
Yep.
So, and post board you have Game Against Affinity and the other stuff.
Yeah, it has a plan against tier 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's...
And tier 2, it's the out of left field deck that really throw it off.
Yeah, but I mean, that's anything.
Right.
You know, like, it probably doesn't have enough graveyard hate against those decks.
Mm-hmm.
But if you find that in your meta a lot, like...
Well, but look at Living End, for instance. Living End isn't that bad of a matchup because all your stuff is going to leave tokens, so your board isn't gone. And then the second time they wrath it, your stuff's coming back.
Right.
So, honestly, like, if you have... it's really only weak to graveyard combo decks.
Yeah.
So, Goryo's Vengeance...
Sure.
Demigod of Revenge combo. Like, there are actually very few graveyard combo decks, like, in the meta. Like, it's good against the grindy graveyard decks.
Yeah.
And good against Living End.
Yep.
Or at least acceptable.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's... Yeah. With good draws and tight play, like, you will get there enough of a percentage of the time where you're not gonna, like, devote 6 sideboard slots to it.
Yep. So,
all right, let's wrap this one up. If you have any questions, you can email us, thoughtseizeU@gmail.com. You can tweet us at Thoughtseize.com. It's not .com. The Twitter is just at T1Thoughtseize. You can go to our website, TurnOneThoughtseize.com, all spelled out. You can click on the old donate button if you'd like to help us pay the bills and get t-shirts and playmats, etc. made. We did recently get another donation, which we greatly appreciate. So thank you for that. I have to find... I forgot the person's name.
Well, while you're doing that, I would also like to give a shout out and thank you to someone that messaged us on Facebook, Rob, who also provided... it was kind of weird that we ended up building a green-white deck, and halfway through I remembered that, because he has a green-white Coco deck that is not Obzon for value, and it kind of attacks at a similar axis that we were going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of looked and saw, and he's had a sideboard plan spreadsheet. More important is almost like the spreadsheet itself and the idea of going through an exercise and writing everything down.
Yeah.
And he brings up a good point, one that I want to just hammer home here. It's very good to, when you're designing a deck, design a sideboard plan like we did with its weaknesses in mind and just write down, okay, when do these cards come in? And for big tournaments especially, you can have sideboard notes. You just can't look at them. You can only look at them between games.
Right.
And in between rounds. And you can't write anything down. Like, you're actually supposed to not... It's technically against the rules to have your previous life totals in between games, because you're not allowed to like look at notes that weren't taken that game, and the rules explicitly say game somewhere, and like it's life totals, it's fine,
right?
But yeah, so with notes you're only allowed to look at them before you finish sideboarding and present your deck.
Okay.
And actually, yeah, there's a very neat spreadsheet here.
Oh boy.
Of like, it's actually very nicely formatted. I appreciate that. I like well formatted. I like when people understand software is actually what it really comes down to. I don't want to just throw it up without his permission. So if whenever he listens to that and gives us permission, I'll message him back and ask. But it's a really good example. And as an exercise, just forcing yourself to go through things is just a really good practice.
So Kennedy, thank you so much for your donation. You have helped us get one step closer to glory.
And more camera equipment.
Yeah, more camera equipment, more play mats,
yeah.
More lighting. Actually, is like we need to get the lighting situation under control.
Yeah, that's actually been the biggest thing. We will have...
Yes, we will have some kind of video for people to watch by the time this airs.
Maybe. I think we actually forgot to record the 10-second teaser we talked about.
Oh God, life is so hard.
I know. I'll find something.
It's fine.
Okay.
No. There's footage in there you can use.
There's definitely footage in there.
Just chop it up.
Just as a little teaser sample.
The old
I don't know if we can throw it up on Twitter. We'll probably post screen caps on Twitter or something. But Facebook will do a short, because we are getting there. It's taken a lot of tries, but we're getting there. And once we get it hammered out, and all the wrinkles are gone, and we can hopefully start producing more and more.
Yeah, much more regular video content.
Yep.
So thank you once again. Thanks for listening to us brew. I don't know. Do you have a closer today?
Not really. I would like to add, like, if you like to see more exercises like this, let us know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Give us feedback. Also, definitely send us your versions of the list. Like, if you were going to brew around this card, Champion of Lambholt, what would you come up with? And if you try this exercise, also please let us know. Like, tweet at us, be like, hey, this was my random card. This is the 60 or 75 I came up with. And that'd be really, really cool.
Yep. Yeah, we'd love to see what everybody comes up with. So certainly, Twitter is probably the fastest way to get a hold of us, because both of us have it on our phones. We have a shared Twitter account.
We do.
And our Facebook message works pretty well too. We are very highly rated in both our response percentage and our response time by Facebook. So thanks, Facebook. Also, if you're listening to us on iTunes, please leave a review and rate us 50 million stars.
That'd be super helpful.
Or 5 or 4. You think we could probably, there's always room for improvement. Don't be that guy though. Don't be that teacher who's like, I don't give out A+, because there's always room for improvement.
Oh, that's no, cool. I had an electrical teacher that only gave 99 pluses.
Ugh.
Because you couldn't be 100%. Be like, oh yeah, that copper staple that you bent yourself to put in the board, because that's the way we make you do it. Yeah, that's bent crooked, so it's not perfect. 99 plus.
Ugh. Don't be that guy.